well, we're going to talk about Armenia for a second now. Vanessa mentioned this last week. Before we get started, I just thought we should bring the map on screen and give everybody an idea of the area that we're talking about here. So obviously the red area is Russia, but if we zoom in on Armenia in blue there and Azerbaijan to the right-hand side of it in green, this is the area that we're talking about. Well, over the last week, we're seeing headlines like this appearing in the mainstream press. Is Armenia turning to the West? So this is from Wednesday in Radio Free Europe. We all know what Radio Free Europe is, but they're saying that for centuries, Armenians have had a tight relationship with Russia, but those ties have come under strain over the past year and a half as Russia, bogged down in Ukraine, has largely stood aside as its Armenian ally faces ever-increasing pressure from Azerbaijan. And this narrative is even appearing in the Russian press. So this is a TASS article, Pashinyan, changing countries' politics to align with the West, according to experts. So I want to welcome, sorry, Stephanie, I want to welcome Kevork back on screen and just get some a view from you about these headlines that are appearing, Kevork, and let's see where that takes us in terms of conversation.
Actually, while the world can see the shift in the balance of power in favor of Russia and China, an increasing number of countries are joining the BRICS economic bloc, and other, I would say, security architectures in Eurasia, such as the CSTO, such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Unfortunately, in 2018, just like in Georgia and in Ukraine, there was a USAID, NED, Soros-backed color revolution in Armenia, which brought a journalist who used to write in yellow newspapers. We call it yellow newspapers because they highly rely on controversial clickbait information just to create hype in the society. So Pashinyan wasn't even a real journalist, in my opinion. He comes to power after huge, I would say, media support through the NGOs in Armenia that are funded by USAID, NED, and George Soros. And the moment he came to power, I warned the Armenians that Armenia will start shifting toward the West, and it was called a conspiracy theory. And today we can see the result of this color revolution, and that is Pashinyan is now doing a very clear and publicly declared U-turn toward the West, and he invited American forces to Armenia for joint training with the Armenian forces, although all the hardware technology of the Armenian forces are from Russia. All types of Armenia doesn't have any sort of weaponry from the United States. It's all from either from the Soviet era or from Russia. I'm not saying that Armenia should be a client state for Russia or for the United States, but what I can clearly see that this is a self-harming policy. Armenia is shooting to its own leg by this U-turn, because, in my opinion, the interest of Armenia is to have a strategic friendship with Russia, at the same time to have a good trade relationship with the West. But if Armenia wants to shift its foreign policy and align itself and embed with the NATO side, the result for it will be that Armenia will lose more territories to Azerbaijan, which has a superior army, which is a very rich country, and most of the countries, including Russia and the West, are in a honeymoon with Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan played very smart in the past decade and two, and it diversified the relationship between the East and West, and now everybody is wanting to pursue good relationship with Azerbaijan, while Armenia is antagonizing Russia in the Southern Caucasus, which is a sphere of influence for Russia. And let's remember that both Azerbaijan and Armenia, they were formerly Soviet countries. So I think the smart thing to do here for Armenia is to diversify its relationship instead of becoming a pawn for NATO, which the experience in Ukraine proved that NATO is ready to use Armenia just like they used the Ukrainians, to the last standing person there, in order to fight against the Russian Federation. And this is quite clear to me because the goal of Pashinyan government is to kick the Russian forces out of Armenia because they have a military base there, and also the peacekeeping forces who are standing between Azerbaijan and the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh, where Azerbaijan wants to ethnically cleanse the 120,000 Armenians in Karabakh who are trapped now in this independent region. And Azerbaijan basically blocked the only life route for the Nagorno-Karabakh, which is called Lachin Corridor. And by doing so, the people there, 120,000 people, are starving, and nobody is able to lift this blockade on the Armenians there. But I would say if the Armenian government isn't trying to help the Armenians of Karabakh and isn't pursuing the foreign policy that can serve the interests of the Armenians there, in my opinion, the only side that Armenians should point fingers and blame now is the Pashinyan government.
And so, I mean, it would be a bit of a grim look into the future, but is it your opinion that if things continue the way they're going, we could see a Ukraine-like situation happening there?
I think the Russians have excessive power in Southern Caucasus. I think the Russians do not need Armenia as an ally country now because they have a very strong partner now in Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan is able to present and the national security to give national security guarantees for Russia, and also the interests of Russia in the region. Armenia is sandwiched between Azerbaijan and Turkey. And at the same time, Armenia is pursuing an let's say, hostile policy toward Russia. So what could go wrong, right? In my opinion, if the Russians withdraw their hands from the Armenian file, we will see that Armenians will be swallowed by Turkey and Azerbaijan. They are the weaker side in this equation, and no side, not even NATO, not even Russia, are willing to intervene, because you have to help yourself before others come and help you. And the current policy in Yerevan is shooting themselves in the leg. And therefore, there could be the scenario of Ukraine, but I don't think the Russians are even interested in intervening militarily to secure their interest there, because one, they have already secured their interest through Azerbaijan, and two, Iran is the only party there who is willing and declaring that they want to intervene militarily if Azerbaijan tries to change the borders between Armenia and Iran, because the Azerbaijani demand is to open a new trade route on the borders between the borders of Armenia and Iran, and by doing so, they will seal the borders between Armenia and Iran. So it's in Iran's interest to intervene there and not in Russia's.
Oh, okay, and thinking back to the map, then between Armenia and Russia, of course, is Georgia. We had the incident in 2008 in northern Georgia. I mean, where does Georgia sit in this whole situation?
Georgia is mostly aligned with the Western Bloc in this, and they don't have good relationship with Armenia for a very long time. But now the current situation in Georgia is similar to the situation in Armenia. And all in all, this Eastern European Bloc, especially in Georgia and Armenia, the current Armenian leadership, they are increasingly and let's say rapidly but surely aligning themselves with the Western interest, and this is harming their own, in my opinion, their interest, because this country's positions, geographically speaking, is either in the Southern Caucasus or in Eastern Europe, and this is the background or the playground of Russia there. And if both Armenia and Georgia want to continue in their current path, I think we will see more destabilization in the region because they will need a new security architecture there. They will need a new reformation of their armies, their security apparatuses, if they want to move toward the West. This is not something that could be done in a day or two. These countries and the people in these countries must understand that the geography plays a role, politics plays a role, and also the social, let's say, the societies in these countries play a role. And if you see these two countries, Georgia and Armenia, naturally speaking, these countries should revolve in the orbit of Russia and at the same time have good relationship with the West. So if any of these countries become a pawn to any of the superpowers, then there will be destabilization and there will be an attempt to use these countries against the other superpower. And Armenia for a very long time played smart and they were strategically aligned with Russia. And until 2018, only in 2018, when Pashinyan came to power, he uh, eliminated all the pro-Russian officers, generals from the army, from the security apparatuses, and exposed its national security to Azerbaijan. So when Azerbaijan attacked Armenia or Nagorno-Karabakh in 2020, and recently also on Armenia, the Russian side didn't come for help because the Russian side knows that Pashinyan is trying to trap Russia also into conflict in the Southern Caucasus in order to make Russia busy on two military fronts and not only in Ukraine, which is the American demand from Pashinyan to drag Russia into another bloody conflict, but this time in the Southern Caucasus.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Kevork. We will talk more about that later as well.